Hello, and welcome back to the Eyes Up Life podcast with your host, Ben Granis. We are here with a fresh week. I hope you've listened to the entire series, but on the off chance that you haven't, the Eyes Up Life podcast comes from Eyes Up. Eyes Up started as a 7,000-mile bike ride around the United States that I did solo to raise awareness for distracted driving. Along the way, I met hundreds of people. I've been fundraising for Text Less, Live More, and I've just become so committed to this mission to end distracted driving, to help people live healthier, happier lives by focusing less on the phone. Digital wellness is the word that covers all of that good stuff. And now I'm sitting down with 21 professional athletes sponsored by Maxxis tires and talking about their careers, distracted driving, digital wellness, all of that in the name of trying to save some lives by giving this topic some of the space that it definitely deserves. So this week we are joined by Donn Maeda. He is a journalist, host of SwapMotoLive. He'll say the rest. He is such a fun guy. I really wish I had the opportunity to ride bikes with him while I was in Southern California. Unfortunately, the timing didn't work out. I had to jump to the next interview. But he's seen it all, both in the power sports world and in the cycling world. And as a father and someone with a very strong social media presence, Donn's perspective is incredibly helpful for all of us, including me. It was really cool to talk to him. I hope you get something out of this conversation. And if you do, maybe it'll inspire you to put the phone down while you're in the car. Maybe you'll put the phone down more generally and just enjoy living life for what it is, which is such a beautiful thing. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Donn Maeda.
I'm Donn Maeda, 53 years old, and motocross journalist. Been doing it since I was in my early 20s. Started at a newspaper called Cycle News, went from there to a motocross magazine called Dirt Rider. From there I launched my first title called MX Racer, and then launched my second title a few years after that, Transworld Motocross, which I did for 19 years. And at the time of its demise, it was the world's largest motocross magazine. Actually, through most of its lifespan, it was. And the changing face of media, magazines have become less and less popular. So now we're at SwapMotoLive doing a digital motocross platform.
How did you get into motocross and journalism?
Motocross, come from a motocross family, right? I was 14 years younger than my closest brother. There's three of us. And so my older brothers grew up in the 70s, and my dad was like, dirt bikes, they could distract my kids from the whole drug thing. So he got my brothers into dirt bikes, and both of them, well, actually, my oldest brother got hurt really bad at the intermediate racing level, but my closest brother went on to be a good professional racer in Southern California, West Coast area. And I actually was, kind of a late life surprise for my parents. So by then my mom's all, oh, little Donnie, he's not racing those dangerous dirt bikes. So I didn't start riding motocross until I was 17. And it was when my brothers convinced my parents, like, hey, Don's kind of a dork. He needs something to do, athletic. So got a three-wheeler first, and then motorcycle, and head over heels into motocross and racing and all that. And in college, my dad actually was like, yo, time to be serious. I'm not paying for your dirt bikes anymore. So got a job at a motorcycle shop to pay for my own dirt bike. And then I realized that if I went to the races and wrote these little local race reports for Cycle News, that I could get a free entry from the promoter. So I was doing that just to race for free, and about a year and a half into college, Cycle News called me and said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And they told me that opportunities like that were real far and few in between in motocross journalism. So I quit school, went to go work for Cycle News, and never looked back.
So did you continue racing, and do you still
Yeah,
ride?
I continued to race. I mean, at a very low level. But yeah, still ride probably twice a week. I race now 24 times a year or so. We have our own race series in Southern California, the AMSOIL Dirt Bike Kids Swap Moto Race Series. So it's all Southern California races, but I line up, shoot photos, shoot video, good time.
So is most of your work written, or is it a lot of visual?
It's changed,
Yeah.
right? Like I mentioned, the changing face of media. Like I love to write, right? I'm a writer, but nobody reads anymore. It's funny because I went from writing stories in magazines and newspapers to shooting photos and writing stories for websites. And man, even since we started SwapMotoLive 3 years ago, it's changed, right? It's like websites aren't as important as social media and even YouTube, right? So most of my work now is video based and instant information on social media, instant gratification. Very rarely do I put a long, multi-thousand word, well-written piece out anymore because nobody's going to read it anyway.
Huh. How does that, as someone who likes to write, how is that for you? Like, do you feel like you've adjusted to it, or do you still crave
Yeah, I
it?
feel like I've adjusted. It's funny because when Transworld Motocross went away, one of my good friends bought me this book, and it's so cliche. It's this book called "Who Moved My Cheese?" Who Moved My Cheese? And it's just like book about not being complacent and changing with the adapting times and always looking for the next thing, right? So as full of analogies as that book was, it really kind of hit home with me. And so I've tried to stay up with it. I mean, a 53-year-old guy trying to do TikTok, no way, right? Like my daughters, I'm like, hey, do I need to start a TikTok for SwapMotoLive? And they're all, Dad, no. So I mean, Instagram, YouTube, that's as much as we go with the social media thing. But I mean, even Facebook is dying, right? Like it's kind of the old person's nerdy outlet now. So we have a Facebook account, but it's on Instagram we have I'd say over 500,000 followers. So that's where we rely on, and our YouTube is growing. And so it's mostly video. Video is actually, because I don't write as much anymore, I feel like I'm cheesing out on my career, because writing is the thing that you put thought into and you take time and everything, and putting a video together is pretty easy. So try to be creative with it, not just a wham bam video, although sometimes those do the best, like the raw unedited action, just sound, no music, no slow-mo. Those are real popular. But yeah, we do all kinds of different videos on our website.
So 500,000 people, you've grown that in just 3 years?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think the following we had at Transworld, I think at Transworld we had 700,000. We actually have 2 Instagram accounts. One that we built organically is probably about 120 now. And it's funny, when we started SwapMotoLive, some of our advertisers, all of our advertisers that came with me were like, we know your reputation, you and your team do good work, we're going to be on board from the start. We had a couple that were like, oh, you have no reach, how are you going to grow? So what I did was I bought an Instagram account that had a couple 100,000. And that was just for those skeptical advertisers, to say, hey, look, we've got this. So I bought one from another media outlet, and we've grown it to 400,000 now. So, I mean, between that, the organic one, and then my personal one, yeah, we've got over 600,000. Yeah.
Talk to me about what Swap, where the name comes from, SwapMotoLive, because I was doing a little digging on your website, but I would love to hear from you what it is.
So Swap is my nickname, but not really. I'm dating myself now, okay? But when the internet first started, okay, dial up, AOL, my older brother calls me and goes, Donnie, do you have internet? I go, yeah, I do. And he goes, go to this thing called motocross.com, this website. I go, all right. And he goes, they have this thing called a chat room. He goes, it's the best. I go, yeah, why? He goes, I spend hours on it every night just laughing. I go, why? And he goes, just go on, just go on. So I go to motocross.com and I click chat. I'm like, what is this? And he goes, it's just this chat room. And it's just these idiots in there talking about dirt bikes. And they don't know what they're talking about. And it's funny because, you can just riddle them and, make fun of them and, or tell them things. I was like, okay. He goes, sign up, sign up. So I'm signing up. And I go, username with Donn. And he goes, no, 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 no. Don't use your real name. And I'm all, why not? And he goes, because you don't want anyone to know who you really are. And I go, well, what's your name? And he's all, Guppy. Right? So my brother is a highly respected suspension technician in motocross. He worked for KYB, which is one of the suspension companies, the manufacturers. And anyway, he does this thing called Enzo Racing, which is a aftermarket hop-up shop, super highly regarded. So he didn't want to, be Enzo Racing or Ross, his real name. So he's Guppy. So I signed up and I'm all, well, what should I do? And he's all, swap, because that's how swap is it's a slang for something that happens while you're riding. Like, yeah, you ride bicycles, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you never heard swap out? Or like,
No.
in the back end, go side to
Oh, like
side
a,
uncontrollably.
like
That's
fishtail
called a
sort of?
swap. Yeah.
Okay.
Fishtail. Yeah. So, yeah, that's just what it was. Swap was my handle in the chat room, right? And just kind of stuck. And when I started my first magazine, MX Racer, it was the name of my editorial column. And Swap Moto came about because when we started our website for Transworld Motocross back in the day, my handle was Swap. And I forgot the password. And I couldn't retrieve it, so I just created one and I was like, Swap Moto. So yeah, so Swap Moto is my author title on Transworld Motocross, and yeah.
Cool.
That's
yeah,
where the
sweet.
name comes from.
That was not what I imagined it to be, but that's really cool, and I'm glad to know now what swap is on a bike.
Yeah, swap
bring
is
that to the East
a
Coast.
swap is something that you don't want to do.
Right.
And it's like endo, right? Endo when you're going over the bars.
Right.
You don't want to swap.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you. So you touched on social media, and as someone who's been in the media world for a long time, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on how things are moving in the world, really, with social media, with Instagram, like the popular ones in particular, and the ones that you have experience with.
Yeah.
Both for yourself and for young people.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, right? Because when I started my journalism career in 1991, like I'd go to the races and I'd take a reporter's notebook, a notepad that's tall and skinny, and a pen, right? And I would just keep track of what happened at the race, and I had a photographer there. And then through the years, technology, my job changed. So then I found myself going to the races, and I have to shoot photos, I have to shoot video, I have to still write a race report, I have to Twitter, like live updates from the race, have to post on Instagram, like live things I see in the pits. And it's like technology is supposed to make your life easier, right? It made my job far more complex. But the social media thing, it's kind of funny because the chat rooms, right, evolved into message boards on the internet. And message boards are like the bane of our sport's existence, right? It's got all these keyboard warriors, just backyard barbecue experts, right? Like, oh yeah, trying to say what they know and this and that, and criticizing riders and products and this and that. And it's like, I used to go on the message boards in motocross because it cracked me up, but then it started to irritate me, right? Because these people that have like, 5,000 posting points or whatever, they think they're like experts, right? So they think that they're experts in motocross journalism almost. So that was kind of irritating. So I quit going to the message boards. And when our bosses at Transworld wanted us to create a message board, I'm all, no, message boards are ignorant. They're just full of idiots. But anyway, this whole social media thing, right? At Transworld, we had a gigantic Facebook page because my online editor had just graduated college, and it was a college thing still then, so he started one for us, and I think we had like 1.2 million followers on our Transworld Motocross Facebook, which was like crazy. It was a gravy train for website traffic, right? Because before Facebook closed down the gravy train and wanted you to pay for everything, you could post a story on your website and go to Facebook and write, check out this story we wrote about the race. And it'd just be like this flood of traffic. So it was a great resource back then. So I was a big fan of Facebook because it was a traffic driver for us. Then they clamped down, and then all of a sudden our website traffic dried up, and our bosses are going, what happened? I'm like, well, the Facebook gravy train has left the station, that's why. And then Instagram became a resource. You could like put a short version of your video up, the longer videos here, and there's the link in bio. That's almost even got clipped down right now, right? But yeah, it's funny to see the way social media has become part of everyone's day-to-day life, right? And I've got 2 daughters, and when they're in high school, I saw how social media played a role in my youngest daughter's life, popularity especially, right? And I'm kind of like the dad. My parenting style is a little different because of the way I grew up. Like I grew up really overweight and bullied, and my mom and dad would never buy me the cool clothes and stuff. So as a parent, I'm always like, oh, I got to make sure my kids have everything to make them happy or cool or whatever. And so I was always super involved with my daughters. And kind of a funny story is my youngest daughter was watching this TV show once called X Factor, I think. And there was this band of guys on, and just coincidentally, I knew them through a motocross contact, right? And she's like, Dad, look at these guys, they're so hot. And I'm like, I know that guy. And she's all, no way. So, well, what's Dad want to do? Oh, he's going to foster this friendship with these guys, right? And my daughter becomes like friends with them, and she gets this popularity on social media because of them, right? And so there's a point where she thought she wanted to be like a journalist like me. And so she would do these interview videos with them, or like go to their shows and do videos and stuff. And I would help her and everything, but she had access to these guys because of my friendship with them, right? But I saw her go through this weird stage in her life where it was very important to her, right? And so she got like, I think at one point she had 15,000 followers, and for a high school kid, that's pretty good, right? And it's funny because now both of my daughters are barely on social media. I mean, they're kind of creepers. They look at people's stuff, but they're always like, they never like anything, and they rarely post. But when I joke with my daughter about this time with this band, she's like, don't talk about that, Dad, it's embarrassing, right? So, I mean, she escaped the whole social media popularity bubble, and she realized that was below her. And, I'm stoked that both my daughters are very grounded. They're not all caught up in the likes and all that stuff. My wife is very anti-social media. Like, I created a Facebook page for her once just so she could be in on it, because like her friends are, they talk about stuff, or like her coworkers even, they'll come up to her and say, oh man, yeah, I saw Donn did that big jump on his bicycle, he's crazy. And she's like, what, how do you know? Oh, his Instagram. So she just thinks it's like ridiculous that all these people know everything, and she's pretty private, right? But social media is part of my career, right? So I have to be active and involved and post and all that stuff. And like, it's actually been a problem at times for me and my family because like, you know, we'll be eating dinner and I'm on my phone and like, oh God, you're always on your phone. I'm like, well, it's kind of my job. It's an important aspect of SwapMotoLive, you know. So I have to stay in touch and I have to post. You know, we have to post several times per day and this and that. And actually, as journalists, I mean, we get several like news breaks. The stories break on Instagram, right? And that rider announces that he's missing the rest of the season because he's got an injury that he's been keeping secret or something, you know? So it's kind of imperative to stay in touch, but it's a pain in the ass. You know, as a middle-aged guy, I don't want to be on my phone and checking all this stuff and this and that, but it's a tool. It's a tool that is required in my line of work. Thankfully, it's not a tool that's that important to my kids, you know? But I do see people that are completely too caught up in it, you know? You can't do anything without seeing somebody filming you with their phone or, you know, driving, checking Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so before we get to the driving piece of this, what would you say to younger people? I mean, well, actually, first I'm wondering, like, how did your daughters kind of get out of the bubble of social media addiction?
I don't know. Like my oldest daughter, she had a thing called a Tumblr. It was like a vlog or something, and she was super into that. And I don't know. I think she just grew up, you know. And yeah, she's on Instagram. She looks, follows people, but it's funny because my kids now use it for things more like food ideas or recipes or craft ideas or something. They're not so much like, check me out, look what I'm doing, right? I don't know what broke them free of it. I know that my youngest daughter was super into it for a while and was very concerned about how many followers she had and so on and so forth. But yeah, she just snapped out of it one day. I think it's people get caught up too much in it, right? Like it's the bragging and the look what I'm doing and look how cool I am, and it's not real. You know what I mean? All the filters and everything now, like, you know, people don't even look like what they look like on Instagram half the time.
Right. Yeah. And so what are your thoughts on the kind of merging of like the personal side of social media with the business, because you use it for promoting your work
Yeah.
and business, and it seems like, well, I know that it's easy to get swept up in whatever's being shown to you when you're like when you're using the app for work.
Mm-hmm.
So like what are your thoughts on the blending of the two worlds and the increasing importance of having a social media presence to be relevant in any industry?
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way the world's changing, right? I mean, I don't agree with a lot of the whole woke society and all that now, you know, like, but that's just where we are right now. You know, when I first got an Instagram account, you know, I was very personal with it. I pictures of my family, pictures of my kids. I posted almost every day before, you know? Like, it's kind of funny to think now that I used to post every day, a couple times per day. Like when I think it's about 7 or 8 years now, I've been like cycling has changed my life, okay? So I got super into cycling, and I would post pictures of my rides every single day, like every day. Like a picture of my bike on top of a mountain or something. Like, I don't know why I thought it was so important to show that, dude, look, I'm out riding my bike or whatever, right? Like now I post maybe once a week or sometimes more depending on what's up there. But my Instagram, if you like scroll down it, like lately it's all bicycles and motorcycles. Like I don't post my family anymore just because that's personal, right? Like I post my dog and stuff, or like mostly I'm posting stuff to be funny or make fun of my friends, you know? It's like people that know me know that like I'm kind of shy and quiet. I'm not real braggadocious, but like if I'm around people I know and I'm friends with them, like all I do is give people crap. It's like, if you're my friend, I'm loud and funny and everything. But if I don't know you, I'm just kind of quiet. But my Instagram is kind of a reflection of the way I'm with my friends, I guess. But it's kind of crazy, like people feel like they know you, right, because of your social media. And actually, in my position right now, SwapMotoLive, like I put a lot of myself out there, and there's people that have like read stuff I've written since the 90s and followed me through this whole journey of career I've had. And that's amazing, right? It's like I'm so blessed and lucky to have that. But then sometimes I'll meet people and they're like talking to me like they know me, and it's kind of like, whoa, have I met this guy? Or, like I've had some concussions. Did I forget this guy? But it's because of the whole social media thing, and obviously our media platform. But it's funny because you interviewed Alex Ray already, right?
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 years ago, I was with Alex and I was videoing something, and we were talking about the changing face of media, right? And I said something about YouTube monetization, and he's like, whoa, 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 what? You can monetize YouTube? And I'm all, yeah. And he goes, so wait, you can make money off it? I go, yeah, when you see a video on YouTube has an ad in it, you get paid for that ad. He's like, whoa, really? He goes, so like this guy that does this vlog, he makes money? And I go on it, and there's like some really popular motocross vloggers, right? And so I go, oh yeah, dude, he probably does really well. He goes, well, how much do you guys make off YouTube? And I go, like $6-7 grand a month. He goes, how much do you think this guy makes? And there's a guy that's in our sport. He's actually one of our test riders, but Connor Erickson. He has this channel called Buttery Films, and he's like massive. And I go, dude, he makes at least 10 grand a month. He's like, whoa, what? I'm starting to vlog. And so he made a couple of vlogs, and they're like terrible at first, right? Because he's not comfortable in front of the camera. And so one day I just to kind of mess with him and make fun of him, I made a vlog, and I call it Life on Two Wheels. And I just filmed what I did every single day, right? But it was just to tease Alex. And I put it out, and it got a lot of traffic. And Bell Helmets, my buddy at Bell Helmets, is like, yo, we want that. Well, what? We want to sponsor your vlog. And I'm all, oh, no, I just made that as a joke. No, we want it. So Bell Helmets has sponsored my vlog for 160 episodes now. And it's the bane of my existence, right? Because I have to do it every week. And there's this pressure on me to do something fun every day, right? Because I can't vlog myself typing or editing a video. I'd have to go talk to somebody, or I have to go ride somewhere, or race, or do something. But a lot of times it's good. Like during the season, when I go to races, I just take my little GoPro with me everywhere and talk to people, and it's great. But like off season right now, and it rained 3 days this week, dude, what do I have to do with my vlog this week, right? So I did trail work yesterday and rode today, and went to Honda this afternoon and dropped off a bike, but I talked to people and interviewed people. And
well, that brings up an interesting point, because I mean, most people aren't sponsored to show their life, but social media, like the whole pressure, it's sort of like a pressure cooker, and what you post, there's a correlation between how exciting it is and how much traffic it gets. Mm-hmm. So like I feel like a lot of people probably feel pressure to do things. I mean, I certainly feel guilty of this on Strava, at least, to like do cooler or longer rides or runs, because it gets more interest on the app. And I think that's probably true for a lot of the social media apps as well. I mean, what do you think about that?
it's totally true. Like the whole vlog thing, right? Like there's this thing right now. People just think all I do is eat shit. Or should I not say shit?
No, it's
people always just think all I'm doing is eating crap all the time, right? But you know what? If I crash and put it in my vlog and like put it on the thumbnail or something, like people are going to watch it. So I'm not crashing on purpose, but it's like if I crash, I put it in there.
Right.
And so people just see these crashes like, oh, dude, Donn sucks. All he does is crash, right? But it's funny, like the whole clickbait thing or the whole thumbnail thing. Like it's funny. I've learned things about like YouTube thumbnails, right? You got to put words in it. You got to title your thing. I can't believe this, or the biggest this, or you won't believe this. It's so sensationalized, you know? And it's like, it's a shame that that's the way you have to get traffic and thus earn money, right? But like last week, for instance, there's this trail that I like in LA County, and there's a bunch of jumps on it. And it's like, I love jumping. Like, since I've learned how to jump a bicycle, it's like my favorite thing to do. But there was this jump over a canyon, and you just had to go as fast as you can to jump over this canyon. And it was like, took no skill. Like, there's like chicks with backpacks doing it in videos and stuff, right? But it's like, you have to go like 25 miles an hour to hit this Evel Knievel ramp and jump over this canyon. It's probably only like 25 feet, but it's this big gorge, right? So when that got built, I was like, I have to go there and hit that. Well, one, because I wanted to, right? But I'm like, dude, if I hit that, it'll be good for the vlog. So I do it, and I do all the jumps at this trail. But my buddy that lives there rides there all the time. He goes, dude, you won't believe this jump these guys built. And it's this gap jump. It's a double jump. And you have to roll in from this hill. And he did it, but he did it like without seeing anyone else do it. And he did it, and he goes, dude, I just hit it as fast as I possibly could. And I'm like, huh, was it hard? And he goes, no, it's just scary. And so he sends me a video of him doing it, and I'm all, I got to go do that jump. That was so cool. Mostly because I wanted to do it. It's cool, right? And so I go there to do it, and I see it in person. I'm all, oh man, it's way bigger in person than it looked on video. And my friend's like, dude, no pressure. You don't have to do it. I'm all, no, I have to do it. I have to do it. And he goes, why? I go, it'll be cool in my vlog. So anyway, I go up and I do it. And it's probably the dumbest thing I've ever done because it's this gigantic jump. And it was no problem. And it was easy, but it was scary. And like if I had gone too far left or come up short, I would have been hurt for sure, right? But I mean, part of it's, I'd say most of it is me. You know, I want to do it because I'm kind of a knucklehead, you know, like I have this theory right now that like, oh, I've had this great life. I've had this great career. My kids are grown. I'm going to go out in a ball of flames, you know? Like I see, like this morning at the optometrist, this old lady was walking in with that walker with tennis balls in the back. I'm all, that is not me. I'm not living that long, you know? So I mean, part of it was because I like to just scare myself. But there was a percentage in there like, oh, I want to do this because I want to get the footage and have it in my video, you know?
Well, that's such an interesting point, going out in a ball of flames, because it's like the balance between doing stuff for other people's like approval and getting traction, and then doing things because you love them, you know?
Yeah.
And that was like a perfect example of that.
It's both in there, right? But it's mostly for myself. Like I said, like I've had this amazing life that's turned out better than I could have ever imagined when I was, because when I was like 23, right before I got hired by Cycle News, like I was on academic probation, right? Because I figured out in college that they don't take really roll, and I could go ride my dirt bike instead of going to class, you know? So I was getting bad grades, and I was on academic probation and got kicked out of university to go to junior college to get my GPA back up to get back in. And I got this incredible opportunity to work for this newspaper, and I did. So it's like I went from being a screw up to having this career that's taken me around the world and all over the United States and allowed me to do all this cool stuff. So I'm like, wow, okay. I raised a family and have a house and, you know, a really comfortable life off of this lucky turn of events, Just because I read a lot of books when I was little, I know how to write. I didn't learn how to write in school. And my passion for motocross allowed me to be creative and do this stuff. So I'm like, wow, I've done it all. I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. So.
Well, I really appreciate your reflection on that. I want to get to the driving side of things. Before we do that, what would you say as like advice to a young person, having made your career and gotten to this point, as, for someone who's trying to pursue a dream that seems maybe out of reach? Any advice or guidance?
It's funny because I've got 2 daughters, right?
Right.
My youngest is very stressed out. She's been out of college 2 years now, and she's working in a doctor's office running his books and all this. But she's like, I haven't found my career. I don't know what to do. I'm like, look, it'll just happen. You'll find something you love. And then my oldest daughter, right? She finished college and she was working this really nice job, and she's like, I hate this job. I'm not getting trapped by the money. I want to love my career. I'm all, honey, everybody doesn't love their career, Like a career is work and means to earn money. And she's like, well, you're a bad example of that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got lucky, right? Like not everybody loves their job and not everybody works within their passion. I'm very fortunate. I guess the only advice I could say is like, just follow what you love, try hard, be the best at whatever you're doing. Try to be the best at it, right? Like if your work ethic will take you a long ways because people see a work ethic and people will admire work ethic and give you a chance. Say you're not completely knowledgeable in this field that you want to work in, but if they know you're a hard worker and they see that in you, maybe they'll give you a shot. I mean, a lot of youth now isn't they don't have that work ethic. COVID changed a lot of that, but yeah, I don't know. Just don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your passions, and if you're lucky, it'll work out.
Right. Yeah, I think that all that's true. Talk to me about your relationship to distractions in the car and your experience with distracted driving.
I'm as guilty as anyone of talking on the phone, or like, it's funny because like cell phones early on, it wasn't illegal to talk on the phone, right? And then when it became like illegal and you had to have a headset or whatever, I was like, psh, but like distractions can come from anything. Like how many times have you seen someone pulling out of In-N-Out with a burger in their hand and a wrapper covering half their face, right? Like, I'm very fortunate that, I got in several fender benders when I was younger, but it was mostly because I was a numbskull, like thinking I knew more about traction and braking and everything than I really did, just because I was a dirt biker, right? But as an adult, I've been very fortunate to have never, knock on wood, been in some crazy major accident. My wife got sideswiped pretty hard by a drunk driver when she was at a stop sign, and she's still feeling the effects of that. But as far as being distracted, yeah, I'm as guilty as anyone. I was on my cell phone a lot in the beginning, and the traffic tickets, the camera tickets that come out. I got a ticket one time for running a red light at a traffic camera signal, and I was like, I didn't run no red light because I'm a pretty conservative driver. And so I went online and it was like, click here to see video evidence of your violation, right? And I clicked on it, and it's this, I'm turning in the shopping center by my house and I'm talking on the phone laughing, right? And I'm all, holy shit, I didn't realize I ran a red light. It wasn't a red, it was a yellow, right? But typically I'm the conservative guy that slams on his brake with a yellow. And I'm like, dude, that's gnarly. Like, they have a picture of me talking on my phone, laughing, running a red light. And that's when I was kind of like, man, that's crazy, right? So then I got the stereo that had the hookup for Bluetooth and all that. So Bluetooth is primarily the way I text and talk while I'm driving, because you can say, hey Siri, send a text. But even that sometimes is distracting, right? So for, I forgot, one of the newer iPhones came out, and there's that do not disturb while you're driving. And it's funny because there's a rider in our sport, Malcolm Stewart. He's like a high up guy, but he'll call me and he'll get that text back. I'm driving right now. I'll call you back. Or it responds to text even, right? But like I'm driving right now. But he never reads it properly, and he thinks it's like a bicycling thing. And so he always texts back, man, you're always on that stupid mountain bike. He gets pissed when he gets that message. But
so you use that feature still?
Yeah, I've got that set on my phone. Although my newest vehicle, my van, has a really cool setup where it'll tell me I have a message. Do you want it read? And I'll say yeah, and it'll read it to me like that. So I don't actually have it on now, but before I had that, where it would have required me to grab my phone, I had that turned on. Yeah.
So would you say that using that feature or having the new setup where it can talk to you is an improvement for distraction?
I think the do not disturb feature was really good. I think a lot of people don't have the self-control or discipline to use it. Yeah, I don't know. We just got a Tesla, right? Also, my wife got a Tesla, and it has that self-driving thing. I don't trust that though. But I mean, think about like the people that have it. They're probably just like on their phones the whole time. I don't know. But I'm primarily a mountain biker, but I do have a road bike, and I had a pretty big road bike obsession for a couple of years. And yeah, you have to be on your toes. Like you have to look at every car as if it's someone texting, right? And watch. And I've had a road rage encounter, and I've had a person not paying close attention encounter that just pulled out in front of me. And I don't think they pulled out to be a dick, right? I think they pulled out because they weren't paying attention, Pull out right in front of my buddy and I, and we, locking up your brakes and skidding on a road bike is horrifying, right?
Yeah.
But this woman pulled out in front of us, and we caught her at the next stoplight. Did you know that if you hit a Prius mirror straight down, it'll pop right off?
So you did that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what'd they do?
She just looked at me, and I was like, pay attention.
Did her mirrors on the ground?
Well, I was hanging by that cord, right? The guy I was riding with was my attorney, and he's like, if you had told me you were going to do that beforehand, I would advise you not to.
Oh man. So what would you say to people who, because you're a cyclist and you have a pretty good awareness of the consequences of distraction while driving, what would you say to people who are pretty adamant that they can multitask, that they're good drivers even if they're texting while driving, and are just really guilty of being on their phones, or just doing things like eating a burger while they're driving that can totally mess up their concentration? What would you say to them to try to get through to them what the consequences could be?
I mean, they call it an accident because it's an accident, right? It's not on purpose. An accident can happen at any second, any moment to anyone, no matter how great they are at multitasking or whatever, right? But like, just think of it this way, like in one split second of not paying attention, you can change someone's life forever, and it's going to change your life forever as well, right? Like, I just can't even imagine hitting someone in my car. Like, I have a friend who got hit on his car and broke his pelvis and his femur and his humerus, right? He's thrashed. He's messed up for the rest of his life, even though he got surgery and everything on it. But he's going to have like these crazy aches and pains and arthritis, and like, not to mention PTSD from getting hit by a car, right? I'm hoping that guy that hit him feels just as bad and is like scared straight now, right? Because the guy was texting when he hit him. But yeah, it's like, is that message really that important? That to take the chance of like killing someone or ruining your own life? I don't think so. Yeah.
No. Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the accident thing because it's really not an accident because you're consciously you're making the decision to not focus on the number one task at hand.
Yeah.
So I think both the language associated with crashes involving distracted drivers or just crashes that could have been avoided generally and consequences for the drivers themselves are lacking. And it seems like most of the because it's so hard to prove that you were distracted while you're driving. And that's a bigger question. Like, how do you enforce hands-free laws? Because most states in the country have laws you can't have your phone in your hand or use your phone in any way. But like, how do you enforce it? Because technically that applies to red lights, and like 90% of people are using their phones at a red light.
Yeah.
But
and you know what? Also, too, is like, where do you draw a line on that? Like, navigation on phones now is so good, right? Like the Waze app. Like I have my phone on a magnet on my dashboard and I use Waze. It's better than the factory GPS that's in my car. So, well, yeah, Waze pops up and it says object on road in half mile. Well, that's awesome, right? That it tells you that, warns you about that. But then you're like thinking, well, how does it know there's an object in the road? It's because someone almost hit the object and went object, and to write object, you have to write hazard, then you have to check on road, off road, side of road, or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the app is amazing for navigation because it's real time and it has real time delays and everything, but it's encouraging you to use your phone. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, it's kind of shitty at the same time.
Yeah, unless everyone who's reporting, it's the passenger in the car.
Yeah.
I've always wondered that because like it's so good at like there's so many users of it that basically every hazard or police or whatever is reported, but that means that there's so many people that are using their phone while they're driving because there's no way that everyone's a passenger in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a passenger in my car very often, you know?
Right.
Like
most people don't.
100% of the time I'm driving, maybe 10% I have my wife or kids in the car.
Right. Yeah, so how about for young people, just kind of bring it back, like you talked about how to kind of get through to people. What do you think about just the amount of time that the younger population is spending on phones, both inside and out of the car? And what do you think is going to be a step forward to bringing back a healthier balance to all of our lives with phone use?
Dude, it's crazy that the way the change in the world has been. The society's different now. Like, it's funny because when we still use Twitter quite a bit, like since I've converted my personal Twitter to the SwapMotoLive Twitter, but when we were at Transworld, I got really irritated at a family gathering because my brother-in-law and his wife had these young kids, and they're at dinner, and they're just on their iPad, right? And the kids don't know how to interact with uncles and aunts and cousins because they're just, right? And so I was just like super irritated. So I tweeted, kids need a mom and dad, not an iPad, right? And I really feel that way. Like I just, like one of my partners at SwapMotoLive has a kid. His boy's probably like 4 or 5 months old now. I'm all, don't you dare become an iPad dad, right? But it's like so easy and so tempting because it's a distraction that children love, right?
It's a babysitter.
But dude, I feel so fortunate that my wife shares a lot of the same values as me, but like I worked my ass off at Transworld and I let my wife stay home for 18 years. with the kids because I wanted them to be raised by their mother, not a babysitter or an iPad, right? And so my kids didn't get cell phones till they were like 15. And even at that point, like they weren't smartphones, right? They were just cell phones. But it's disappointing to see the way people are being raised now. Like it's such a tool, such a large part of their life. Yeah, like how many times do you go to a restaurant, right? And you see a family, and mom, dad, and the two kids are all on their phones. So, like I said, it's caused my phone has caused some trouble at home for me because I'll be on it sometimes, and my kids will just get so mad at me. Like, put that away, Dad.
Well, it's great that it's coming from them.
Yeah, it's good.
But it
it's
is
good.
interesting.
It's good. I'm lucky, you know. I mean, there's times when I'm just as bad as anyone. Like, oh man, because like you know, your Instagram feed gets populated with like things that you like or whatever. It's like I have all this mountain bike stuff. And it's like, oh dude, look at this jump this guy did. You know, so I get into it too. But my kids are both moved out now, and I'm lucky enough that I like call them, hey, you want dinner with Dad tonight? You know, so on those nights I'll leave my phone in the car to make sure all my attention is on them. And I'm not tempted to look at my phone or answer a text or something, and I think they notice when I do that because I've been criticized for being on my phone while I'm with them too,
Yeah.
But
I like that.
But I just wonder seriously about how families are going to interact, the dynamics and everything, like there's this kid in mountain biking in Southern California. He's only like 9 or something, and he does these big jumps. And I've known of him and everything, right? And so finally one day I just happened to bump into he and his dad on the trail. And so I rode with them, and so impressed with this kid beforehand. But after meeting him and seeing the interaction between him and his dad, the lack of respect and the shit talking that goes back and forth, I just that's totally a like social media relationship with his father and son.
Like a real world example.
Yeah. I was just like, so I like don't follow the kid anymore, and like it's just it was disappointing.
Do you think when you say it was a social media relationship, do you mean like it was like a lot of relationships on social media, or it was
no,
because
like
of social media?
their whole dynamic, at least on the mountain bike ride, revolved around the kid doing something sweet for Instagram. But the kid would just talk shit to the dad. Like, it was really disappointing. Like, I'm big on respect between kids and their parents and stuff, and yeah, the kid was just bagging on his dad because his dad couldn't do the jumps, It's like, man, obviously the dad started the Instagram account when the kid was little for him, but the kid took it over, and I don't know. It's just made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, like how do we get to a place where like that's not even an option for a relationship? It's like just make it so it's not so important in everyone's life.
Yeah, I just think that's the way the world is now. People have different values, and
I do think eventually people like there's enough of people like you and people who appreciate like strong values and not super invested in social media in a toxic way, that I think more and more people will get to that point and hopefully swing the pendulum in the other direction. But I don't know.
Don't get me wrong. I think that there's, aside from the business aspect, right? I think there's value in social media, right? Because like I've told you, I think Facebook is lame, right? And so I've actually gone to kill my personal Facebook several times. Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay, so you go to turn it off, and it goes, "Are you sure?" You're like, "Yes." And it goes, whew, and it goes to the people you interact with the most. And for instance, me, it's my closest brother, Ross. So, "Are you sure?" "Ross will miss you."
Oh no.
Yeah, it says that. "Ross will miss you. John will miss you." It shows you all these people. And I'm like, damn it. And like, to be honest, the only things I post on Facebook are like Like on my Facebook, right? I don't have any people I don't know. Like I don't let in any motocross fans or anything, or people that know me from SwapMotoLive, or even industry people I'm friends with. No. If I don't hang out with you or you're not family on a day-to-day regular basis, like I think I have like 100 friends maybe, right? Whereas on my Instagram, I've got like, I don't know, 50 something thousand followers, right? But I have 100 friends because I post family stuff there, right? Like, oh, hey, this weekend, Eileen, my wife, and I went to this cool restaurant. It was so good. Look what we ate. And I think in that aspect, social media is valuable because my cousins that I don't see all the time, they know what I'm up to. My wife's cousins in New Jersey, they know what we're doing. They know how we're healthy and we're having fun, or, I'll post family vacation photos on that. But that's the only reason I keep that thing alive, is for that. And then also the easiest way to get a hold of my oldest brother is Facebook Messenger. I could text him and he don't write back. I call him, he don't answer. But Facebook Messenger, bing, and he writes right back. But
that's wild.
But the whole, are you sure this guy will miss you? That's what gets me every time.
That's crazy. Wow. Before we wrap up, Donn, I want to take a minute to take a look at our screen times together. Do you ever do that?
It's horrible, yeah.
Well, let's do it together.
I don't actually know how to check it. I just get that message sometimes.
The report?
So it's
so it's in your settings, and then it's right under focus.
Screen time.
What do you see?
Daily average?
Yeah.
9 hours.
Wow. I'm at just over 6 hours.
You know what though? There's a game. Does that count? Screen time? A game?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a game I started playing on our family vacation a couple months ago because my daughter plays it.
What is it?
I'm not even going to tell you. It's embarrassing.
What do you mean? That's fine.
Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
People still play that?
Yeah. Okay, so we're in Italy, right? And my daughter's like doing something. I'm like, what are you doing on your phone? And she's like, oh, Dad, there's this Pokemon you can only get in Europe. And I'm trying to catch it. I'm like, whatever. And then like one night she's like, hey, calls me in my hotel room. Will you go with me down the street? There's one there. I'm all, what? And so I go with her because she doesn't want to go alone, right? And she doesn't catch it. She's all bitter. But she's been playing since it started, right? Like years and years and years. So I'm telling my wife about it. We're in bed and I'm laughing. I'm gonna start it just on chance if I catch it, because I went for walks every morning. And so I did, and I had to like watch a YouTube video on how to play the game. And that night at dinner, I'm all, hey, I started Pokemon Go, and she's laughing. And I go, you want to see what I got? And I got the one she wanted.
No way.
Just by chance, right?
Yeah.
So then we had to become friends or something so I could give it to her.
Trade it or something.
And so, but anyway, it's been this point of, this has been connection point with us. You know, like I'm close with my daughters, but it's like, if I play it, it gives us something to talk about.
Right.
And it's funny, we went to dinner the other night and we had this great dinner conversation for like over an hour. And then we're leaving and she goes, have you been playing? And I go, well, yeah, I caught this and this. And she's like, oh, let's go sit in the car and play. And we sat in the car and played for an hour together.
Oh my
so
God.
it's
skewing your time.
It's skewing my time, I think.
Oh, well, let's take a look just briefly at what your activity is. I just want to see what your reaction is to the numbers.
Okay.
So if you
See
go to
all
see
activity?
all activity, yeah. I just want to see what your most used app is.
Pokemon Go.
Oh, it is. Okay.
2 hours.
2 hours. All right. How about what's the second most?
Instagram, 1 hour, 12 minutes.
Is that your daily average or the total for the week?
Most used, I think.
Most used. Okay, so that's not that much.
First used after pickup, messages.
Right.
Instagram, Strava, Pokemon Go.
Right. Are you surprised by those numbers? Or not really?
I'm not surprised by the amount of time because it's this Pokemon thing is a new thing, right?
Right.
And it's kind of fun because like Pokemon's a Japanese thing, you know that,
Right.
right? And so I'm Japanese American. So like my kids were into Pokemon before it was a thing in the U.S.
Huh.
because we were in Japan,
Right.
and oh look at this, and then so it's been a new thing for me. So that's why I've been playing it so much. And it's funny because I travel more. I guess you have to move around to get, and so I travel a lot for my job. So I go places that she's not, and so I catch all this stuff that she can't catch, and it's hilarious to me that I'm not better at it than her, but I mean I have more opportunities for things.
Which makes you better at it because
Yeah.
the more you move around, right?
But yeah, the Instagram thing, I'm surprised it's this low, hour and 12 minutes.
Might
Because
just be a low for this week because I
Yeah.
think that's just your weekly numbers.
messages is third, Waze is fourth.
Right. Huh. So there's a study that came out I think last year that says that the average American will spend about 5 years of their life on social media over the course of their life, and that was surprising to me because that's a lot of time, but it amounts to only about an hour and 40 minutes a day on across the various social media apps. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on that, whether that's like a lot or not really.
Seems like a lot, right? Like seems like a waste of your life. But think about how much your day to day you're either alone or in line waiting for something. Like to me, being on your phone while you're in line or waiting for something, that's fine. It helps pass the time, right? Like I know that when my kids were little and we went to Disneyland and Magic Mountain, all this nonsense all the time, I wish my phone was like that back then. It would have passed the time. But instead, you're just sitting there
Right.
twiddling your thumbs, playing I Spy, right? But I don't know. Like for me, I have a different view of it, though, right? Because it's part of my job. But it's refreshing to me to see the opinion of social media that my kids have and their approach. They're not consumed by it. I mean, they definitely look at it, but they're not big on the look at me, look at what I'm doing.
Yeah, they've struck like a healthy balance between
Yeah.
the good and the not so good about it.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes my eldest daughter will be talking about something that she saw, and my wife will go, "What? Let me see." And my daughter will go, "Here's my phone. Do not like anything on accident. Don't double tap anything." Like she's like a phantom,
Right.
She's just the stalker that follows
Not
people.
feeding the algorithm.
Yeah.
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 Wow. All right. Well, so just to close out, any closing thoughts, anything you're looking forward to, or anything that you want to share before we wrap up?
I don't know. I think on a personal and professional level, it's been very interesting for me to see the way media has changed and the way social media has changed life, right? It's kind of discouraging sometimes, right? Like, oh God, look at the demise of society or something, but I don't know, there's positives to it. Like I said, you can keep track of family and friends and stuff, but I just think everybody needs to find that right balance and be smart and don't get addicted.
Right. Sweet.
Good.
Thank you, Donn.
Yeah.
So there you have it, Donn Maeda. Thank you so much for listening. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but we were sitting down in the shop of Jeremy McGrath, which was really cool because it was just filled with all of these vehicles and bikes that Jeremy owns or works on. And they had a little makeshift, not makeshift, but they had a studio set up for a interview, just like what we did. So make sure you check out the video that was posted 2 days ago. It's in my feed, Eyes Up Ride on Instagram and on Maxxis Tires YouTube. So check it out. And if you liked this podcast, subscribe. We still have plenty more episodes to come. And leave a review. Just give it 5 stars. It doesn't matter, but if you liked it, I'd love to hear from you. If you didn't, then send me some feedback because we're all improving constantly and have room for growth. And I just love hearing from the people who have helped make this possible. So thank you so much for listening. To wrap up the month of June, in 2 weeks, we will have Dustin Jones, professional UTV racer, on the show. Dustin Jones is from Louisiana, a new state for Ben when I went to interview him. So again, thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Donn Maeda, and we will see you or hear from you. I will hear you from me by talking to you in 2 weeks. Thanks again. Bye-bye.